Accessibility Confident Employers. ACE.
My name is Eric Daponte. I'm the operations manager at Two Crows Brewing in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm a white male wearing a beige toque and a funny headset and a black hoodie. Operations manager role kind of oversees me looking over a bit of everything in the brewery, from the production side, supply chain, managing some of the ingredients and raw materials that we use to produce and can the beer. A lot of scheduling in terms of staff on the production side and also in the tap room, where we have a little area for people to sit and consume our products and buy cans to go. So my job ultimately revolves around overlooking sort of the whole entity of the business through hiring and scheduling and just making sure everything runs smoothly. We've kind of been going through a little bit of a growth phase in the last couple of years, and sort of overlooking the craft beer industry as a whole, and in terms of how many barriers there are to many different demographics. And it's mostly been made up of people that look like me, white males. So we really sort of sat down about 2 years ago and sort of did an internal sort of look at our company. As the industry as a whole. There was a little bit of Ren Navarro, who is a big advocate for inclusion and diversity in the brewing industry. We had them come out to Nova Scotia, and they did a seminar with all Nova Scotia breweries on how to be more inclusive moving forward. And that was something we sort of led the charge on, and something that really got us in the motions of how do we do this and how do we bring different demographics into the brewing industry. And it really started just from some very simple changes in terms of being very clear on like what our mission, vision, sort of a mission statement for the brewery that we publicly post in the tap room and on our socials about us being welcoming and kind of opening the door to having those conversations and being more open to sort of everyone being involved at the brewery. To our hiring practices. And, some of that started with just, we were hiring through social media, through our sort of small network, but looking at that and seeing how many people we weren't reaching by just doing that and by utilizing more public job boards and job boards that are bringing a more diverse sort of workforce that could see our job postings and sort of interact with them and see it as a potential for an industry that they could work in. And through that, we kind of got put in touch with Prescott Group. And Prescott Group is an organization that deals with individuals with developmental disabilities and helps them through various training programs, getting them sort of set to work in the workforce, but then also helping them find work and helping the businesses take them on and sort of getting them involved in the workforce. So we got put in touch with them. We sort of explored that. And we were originally put in touch with two awesome employees who still work here today. It's been 2 years, who help on our production line. So sort of started from there, kind of had them come in to a role that we sort of shadowed to some of the Prescott crew, showed them what was going to be happening. Didn't necessarily have anyone in mind from the start or do any interviews, but they kind of took that back to their team and handpicked a few individuals who they thought would be a good fit for the role and who had some sort of interest in brewing and the production side. So we're now up to 3 employed individuals from Prescott. They all sort of started out with AIDS at the beginning of their employment, who sort of helped through the training process. Not only with them, but also with us, just in terms of getting them situated in the role, getting us used to, the training process, helping them through the motions. And now all 3 of them are actually completely individual and on their own. They don't have AIDS anymore. So it's been awesome to sort of see the growth in terms of sort of where they've come from and where they are now. I know one of our specific employees was very timid to try sort of some of the different jobs on the canning line at first, but now, there's one that they were very timid about that they do every single time they come in. Really just seeing the growth, even just from a social aspect as well. A lot of that shyness and not really knowing how to fit into that work culture, just because they've never had that opportunity. But seeing how that's developed over the past 2 years and being able to interact with other coworkers and sort of fit into that communal sort of social aspect, yeah, has been a huge thing for us in terms of morale boosting, and yeah, sort of, I guess, creating this culture of inclusivity, making sure everyone feels welcome, everyone has the sort of um, things they need to do their job, but also how uplifting it is to sort of the rest of the crew. And yeah, I mean, no shade to any of the rest of our employees, but I think everyone has a bit of a bigger smile on their face when our Prescott crew is in, for sure, because they definitely uh, they bring a good vibe into the brewery. Lots of playlists that they always have on repeat that we're listening to. We're always doing Hamilton is a big one. I think we know every word to that now. Trying to grow that program more. Like I said, we've gone from 2 individuals to 3. So as we expand, sort of bringing new people from the program in and giving them an opportunity. And who knows? I would say we haven't necessarily looked at sort of any other positions in the brewery that this could fit into, but certainly something that's not off the table. And as we sort of are working on a second location here that should be open within the year, I think there's definitely opportunity that we're looking to is how do we include different, you know, different clientele, different employees from different backgrounds into the brewery. You know, whether that's people with developmental disabilities, whether that's people of color, whether that's people that are hearing impaired, visually impaired, and looking to more differentiate and see how we can get different people involved. I've been in beer for about 9 years now. I worked at a brewery in Alberta previous to this. And they also had a program that had individuals with disabilities on the team. So I don't know. From my standpoint, it's a very young industry. Craft beer is generally kind of just really blown up in the last 10 years. But I think with that has come a real acceptance of being inclusive, hiring a diverse staff. Just because it doesn't sort of it is so new, it doesn't revolve around those old sort of culture that a lot of these older businesses in today's world do. So it's been great to see. I've always been involved around it, so it's kind of second nature to me. But something I'm a huge advocate for, and if I can propel any sort of other business to get involved and make the jump, I certainly will. Yeah, I mean, the effect it's had on the business, I'd say in the last 2 years has been substantial. You know, not only for sort of the morale boosting sort of internally with our staff, but also sort of customer facing and sort of people looking in and, you know, not to be sort of tokenizing and sort of, hey, you know, look at us, we're doing a thing. But I think we do come across as doing it genuinely. And I think that really has shown through the way our customers have responded and just the way sort of people, I think, internalize how we're doing it and the progression of the brewery, because I think they do see us as someone who is really trying, you know, in a very tough world for small businesses right now, where, you know, rising costs amid everything else, and just, you know, trying to seek that bottom dollar. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you know, what gratifies me the most is when people are like, hey, like, oh, you work at Two Crows, like, you know, it's amazing that you are so inclusive and that, like, you know, we know Jen and Andrew, we see them on the Instagram and they're part of the production team. And even just doing stuff like this where, you know, obviously, like, I think more businesses should be trying to be more inclusive and go out of their way to do so. So it has provided opportunities for us to talk about it and for us to interact with other organizations and stuff like that, where we can sort of showcase ourselves as being a leader sort of in this area. And also just, you know, talking to other businesses in terms of, hey, we're doing this, you should too. And I think that really goes far in the business community as far as, okay, these guys are doing something different. Why can't we be doing it? And sort of something in that realm where we can be shown as just like everyone else, but we're sort of doing things differently. And why can't we be doing that? So yeah, I'd say, you know, since we've done it 2 years ago, we have not looked back. I think it's, you know, a little trepidatious at first when you're doing a new thing and figuring out, you know, these different training protocols and the individual needs of certain people. But I'd say all that aside, tenfold, it has completely worked out for us. Super happy where we're at. And I mean, no knock on our other employees, but our folks from Prescott are some of the most dedicated staff we have. Never calling sick, super happy to be here. One of them is a huge Maple Leafs fan and said if the Maple Leafs offered them a job for $1 million, they would turn it down just to stay working here. So at the end of the day, I think that's a huge win for me, and that's a huge win for the team. And I think something that's just like, again, really boosted morale around the brewery, but also I think has been sort of shown to the general public that we sort of are a leader in the space, and we are trying to be as inclusive and diverse as we can. Yeah, so working with Ren Navarro, one of the big things, even just working with them as a person of color in the beer industry, was just sort of the language we use, and going down to something as simple as a job posting and some of the language being used in that, and how, to certain people, it might not seem as limiting or exclusionary, but to others it is. So just looking at even just the bare bones of that, looking at a bare bones, a message when you walk into a tap room that says, everyone's welcome here. These are our values. We don't stand for this, that, and the other thing. So just looking at something as simple as language that you're using in your business, in your hiring practices, in your day-to-day, that can be more inclusionary to everyone and make everyone feel like they're welcome and that they can contribute to something.
Accessibility Confident Employers is a project of Sea Change Collab. Visit us www.sechangecolab.com. Funded by the Government of Canada. Financé par le gouvernement du Canada.